The Batfoot Podcast is starting in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome in, everyone, to this opening day weekend reaction video of the Batfoot Podcast. We got a ton to talk about. We have extensions just popping up left and right out of nowhere. We're going to talk about the rookies that are starting to show out to start the year so far. We're going to talk about how Mike Trout has found the power of God and he might be back. And then we'll talk about the ABS system because I think we have a lot of takeaways so far from the first weekend of these being in actual games that we can talk about. But before we get into that, I'm not going to go to you, David, because I know how you're feeling. We'll get there shortly. Matt, how are we doing this week?
Did pretty good. I was in Charleston over the weekend on a bachelor trip, so that was a lot of fun. Got to catch a decent amount of baseball. I watched some opening day games. I didn't catch a ton of Saturday's games because I was we were busy with our travels, but I did catch the Braves game on Saturday. A lot of fun, at least the ending of it. And then Sunday, traveling back, I was watching games in the car ride home. So got to catch a pretty good bit of baseball, and it was a good opening weekend. Had a lot of fun watching it. So excited that the season's back on here, and we're starting up fresh here in 2026, and a lot of interesting stuff to talk about from this weekend. So excited to get into it today. And David, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. As Damian mentioned, it's been a very fun week for us Cubs fans. Opening day has been awesome. It's good to have baseball back. I'm having a blast. Got the Cubs game on while we're doing it. So if anything crazy happens, you'll get the live reaction. But this has been a fun start to the season already. Wild, man, just absolutely wild in terms of the kind of performances that we've seen. So, Damian, I mean, the Dodgers, they've had a couple of crazy performances too, so I'm sure you're not doing too bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really complain when you have a weekend sweep, right? Like, that was pretty fun. Obviously, a couple of those were, like, late games, have to come back. Also, side note, Arizona, what are you doing having no lefties in your bullpen? Don't know. That doesn't seem like a great idea starting the season against the Dodgers, or just in general. But they, 3 come back from behind victories. It's just kind of funny. But, it's been a good weekend. I enjoy just watching all of baseball. I've already watched an unhealthy amount of baseball. But there's been just a lot of fun things to watch and to talk about from the games especially. But before we get to actually on the field games, let's talk about extensions because we've had 4 extensions happen since basically opening day or since last Monday when we recorded. That's actually when the first one dropped. So we'll start with both the Cubs extensions because PCA is the one that dropped first. He got 6 years, $115 million. There's no options on that contract. It buys out 2 free agency years, so he can still be a free agent at age 31. There's an assignment bonus if he's traded, and there's some escalators in there based off some finishes for MVP and stuff like that can take it up to $133 million. And then they also turned around and signed Nico Hoerner, who was a pending free agent at the end of the year, to a 6-year, $141 million deal. It's a straight deal as well, no options, $5 million signing bonus, $10 million deferred, not much. And it gets a full no-trade clause, so that's a pretty big deal there. So, David, as our resident Cubs fan here, when these 2 extensions dropped, you were pretty excited in our chat.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. This is the kind of thing you want a team with big market dollars to be doing, is extending its best players, right? And this is a very clear indicator that the Cubs are prioritizing defense, right? Like, these are 2 of the best defenders at their position in baseball, probably the 2 best defenders at their position in baseball. If you could argue with me, but I'd argue for it. So this is a very clear prioritization of the best defensive players in baseball, trying to get these guys locked up. Nico is what he is offensively, right? He's a high contact guy, not a lot of power, a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism, plays every day. He's just the kind of guy that he's always in your lineup. He'll always have some value. He's the kind of guy that he's kind of like your Luis Arias if Arias was athletic and could play defense, right? Like that's the kind of impact he has on a game. And then PCA is just he's a star level player that he's certainly going to have the ups and downs, the hot and cold streaks. We talked about it last week when we had our predictions episode, and I mentioned him as the MVP dark horse because he's when he's on, PCA is the best in the game. When he's off, he's one of the worst hitters in the game, but he'll always be one of the best center fielders in the game. And that's what's going to keep this contract from being anything negative. I mean, I sat here and I was like, there's a number. I think I even said it when the extension was announced. I was like, well, if PCA's number is like less than 200 million, like I'll be happy. But like, even if it's above that, I probably wouldn't even be mad. The fact that it comes in this, like I wanted more years basically out of PCA. Like I wanted more years from Nico. Like I was almost like, these are almost steals for Nico. Probably could have made the Adames money if he goes to free agency as a shortstop next year. And it's like, maybe not, right? But like he would have argued for that. And so this feels like a really good deal in that he didn't have to take this deal, but he wanted to be there. And I think I love that. The Cubs fans love that, right? Like this is a great week to be a Cubs fan. Here's hoping they can keep it going and quit losing to teams like the Nationals. That's about the only bad thing was that they lost 2 of the 3 to the Nationals in opening weekend, basically.
Yeah, I'm with you on these moves. I think the PCA move is solid. That's about what I would expect him to get at the stage he's at now. Obviously the Cubs really believe in him long term. I think I'm totally on board with you, David, in saying that he's a guy that's going to deal with hot streaks and cold streaks at the plate, but he's always going to have the defense. I think I said last week in our preview episode, he reminds me a little bit of Michael Harris in that like the defense is always going to be there. PCA's defense is a little bit better, but it's kind of a similar type of profile. And then there's going to be some times where they're hitting for a lot of power, a lot of contact, but the walk rate's going to be really low. And there's going to be occasions where they're swinging at a lot of bad pitches, making bad contact, striking out, that kind of thing. So, if he can continue to develop plate discipline, which he's extremely young, then this could be a steal of a contract.
He's walked twice. He walked tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's Michael Harris, then this is a solid deal for that too. So right. I think this is a very good deal. And then the Nico signing, I think it doesn't get appreciated enough having a player like Nico Hoerner, who is a slightly above average hitter every single year. He has never put up since 2020, which was his second year in the big leagues, and it was it was really his rookie year, and it was the short season. Since then, he has been between a 102 and 109 WRC plus every single year. Never been better, never been worse, but he's a consistent plate appearance that will get you solid contact numbers, gets on base pretty well, doesn't hit for much power, but he's always going to put up a good defensive numbers. He's going to be a good base runner every year. He does a little bit of everything except power. And and when you've got a guy like that that's putting up 4 to 5 wins above replacement every single year, he's never going to be an MVP guy. He's never going to put up 6, 7, 8, 9 wins above replacement. But he's also, as long as he's not, and maybe at the end of the deal and when he's 35, it might not be the best last year of it. But like until then, he's going to be a solid player. And as someone who's watched Nick Allen and Orlando Arcia man shortstop the last 2 years, having a middle infielder like this, because I mean, there's a world where Dansby Swanson ends up, having to move off a shortstop at some point as he continues to get older. Nico can play shortstop at a high level. That high level defense, that consistent bat, that's a really good, valuable player to have. And I think there's a little bit of an oversight in the market for that guy too. Yeah. And 6 years for 141, he's getting paid less money than some players getting paid superstar money that put up the same value numbers every single year. So I'm definitely on board with the Nico signing. I think it's awesome for the Cubs. So I think I like both of these moves for the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never hate a player getting his money, right? Ian Happ just homered. I'll never hate a player getting his money. Obviously, you're trying to buy early on PCA to get that lower number for now. Buy out the 2 free agent years. That's great. Nico, I didn't know if Nico was going to get that 140-ish, 150-ish million. I was thinking he was probably, even if when he hit the market, I was thinking maybe in the 115 to 120 is about his range. I was thinking, right, for about a 6-year deal or so. So I think there's a little bit of Cubs also paying him for what he's done so far. He took a little bit of a team-friendly deal that last time, only getting 11 million there. So it's maybe a little bit like paying him a little bit extra on market value here to get him to stay instead of going to free agency. But like you guys mentioned, he's a great player. He's not going to be a star player. I think all the times in the offseason where people have been trying to make him sound like a star player, I think it's been overblown, but he's been a very good player. And And I think this deal kind of fits right in line with what you would expect him to kind of get around there. So I like it for both sides.
Ian Happ next. That's all else. Get Ian locked up next. That's what I want.
I think you should sign Michael Conforto to an extension. Now, moving on to
I
the
agree.
Baltimore Orioles. They signed Shane Baz to a 5-year, $68 million extension. I think this one happened on Friday. It's a straight deal as well. No options or escalators. No deferred money in this. Buys out 2 free agency years. The interesting part is he only getting really paid $1 million this year. I believe it's like $7 million next year. So the tax hit is 13.6 for all 5 years, but the lower salary is the first 3 years. You're under that number in cash flow. So that last 2 years of that, I think he's upper 20s or mid 20s on that, but you're getting a lower cap hit for there. So it's something like David mentioned in our chat on Friday when this happened. These can be deals that you're going to start seeing more and more. So if with the lockout impending, teams trying to get some of the more of that cost certainty with some deals as we head into the lockout and potential whatever happens of a cap or soft cap or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a solid deal. It's a risky one, I think. I mean, there's a chance that Shane Baz has a similar career path to Tyler Glasnow, where, you know, and obviously also a former Ray, where it's this guy with elite stuff who really struggles to stay healthy early in his career. Then he kind of finally gets healthy enough to break out, but never puts up huge inning totals, but is really good on a rate basis. There's a chance that he just ends up being that player that puts up decent amounts of innings and is a 4 or 5 starter, which is what he was last year. He had to put up a 487 ERA last year, 437 FIP. His peripherals were a little bit better. He had a good strikeout rate, but the numbers on the season weren't fantastic. He put up the innings. Is really the biggest thing for him last year, 166 innings. But going forward, this could also be a player who they're paying, 11, 12, 13 million a year against the luxury tax, or maybe even some kind of a soft cap in the future that may even just not be able to be on the field. I mean, so let's hope that he continues to stay healthy, because I mean, he made his big league debut in 2021 and he didn't put up more than 79 innings in a season. All of his innings he's pitched have been from the starting rotation. He had not put up more than 79 innings in a season until last year. So, and that had all been in the big leagues too. So I think it's important to pump the brakes a little bit on this. One thing I do want to mention with this contract extension is we talked a couple years ago when the Orioles got sold about their ability to maybe increase payroll and start signing some deals and signing extensions. And they seem to be doing a little bit of that. They've done, like, they made the big Pete Alonso signing in the offseason. I believe they added, was it Chris Bassett that they added on a pretty expensive 1-year deal? But it was like a $20 million commitment. Like, they're starting to increase their payroll a little bit now that ownership is kind of taken apart there. So, whether or not they could actually extend a guy like Gunnar Henderson, that's hard to. That's going to be hard to do because he's a Boris guy, but they do seem to be open to spending a little bit more money, locking up some guys long term, and that's good to see with Shane Baz here, and good for him getting paid after the injury struggles he's dealt with in his career so far. So, definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with him. I'm definitely a fan of his abilities. So I think it could work out great for them.
Yeah, Shane Baz has all the stuff, right? To be a much better pitcher than this contract number suggests, right? All the talent is there, all the ability is there, but it hasn't manifested in consistent performance, right? We talked about Nico Hoerner's consistent performance. Shane Baz has kind of been anything but that, right? So this deal is very much a betting on the talent of Shane Baz to outweigh the potential injury concerns. I think these types of extensions are pretty reasonable. I'm honestly surprised they don't happen a little more often, right? Sacrifice a year or two of free agency as a pitcher, but you can go ahead and get a couple $1 million on the market now, and then if your elbow blows out before you get to free agency and your stuff declines, well, then you don't get shafted, right, by never having reached free agency. I think of Walker Buehler, right, who he never got made a big time free agency contract because by the time he was there, he had Tommy John twice, and his stuff just diminished, and he's just not as good now. So this is a great move. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this. I think some of these risky young starters with a high velocity, a lot of spin. How long are those guys gonna last? Right? we don't really know. We don't this huge velo, huge spin movement. We haven't gotten to this being can you sustain this for 10 years type of thing.
Right.
So it's good for Shane Baz to get paid. And then if the performance is as we think it is, right, this is a steal of a deal. But if he gets hurt, right, it's not a devastating deal for the Orioles, but it's certainly a sign that they believe in him. They obviously made the traded the prospects for him. Like they certainly believe in him to an extent, and this just further vindicates that. So here's hoping that Shane Baz can keep it going and stay on the field. I think that's the big concern, but he should be good.
Yeah, and one thing I also want to know is we were talking about his last year where he put up the 166 innings. His stats didn't look the best. We also have to remember that that was Tampa being in George Steinbrenner Field. His home and road splits massively different. He had a 5.90 ERA at home and a 3.86 on the road. You go look at FIP, a 3.79 on the road, 4.96 at home, and his xFIP at both of those were 3.89 and 3.87. So he pitched a lot better than what the results meant, but he was in Steinbrenner Field where that's just the ball was just flying out of there last year. So the raw numbers don't look about how it potentially could be with the home road split. So I'm excited to see a full season here in Baltimore. I bet we see some, into the threes possibly ERA, but I think you take that from a 5-starter. I mean, we're talking about 5 starters getting 15 to 16 million on the market now. This is a guaranteed $13 million basically. You take the risk, and if this guy's if he hits, you're talking about a guy who could make 25, 20 to 25 on the market easily. So I think you take that a little bit for the Orioles there. So
first start wasn't the best, but he got through 5, give up a couple of runs. I think it's downhill from there, right? It's the first start, get the jitters out of the way, and get focused.
Opening day too,
stay on health. Yes, which is another, that's a whole other animal. Yeah, that's another animal entirely. We did the Sporkle. You can't take a whole ton of stock in opening day. It's a different environment.
What I will say though is from that one opening day start, Kurgene, no walks.
Hey, there you go.
That's the biggest thing. 5 1/3 innings, no walks. That's massive for Shane Baz. So that's something to look for sure. So the last extension. This one came today out of nowhere. But we just don't doubt the Brewers because the Brewers just do random things that work. So they signed shortstop prospect Cooper Pratt to an 8-year, $50 million extension. I think it's like 50, almost close to 51 million. Has 2 option years in there. Both of those option years are around 15 million. We haven't got the exact numbers. Interesting part, he just debuted at AAA on Friday, and per Pat Murphy's pregame conference today or whatever you want to call it, media scrum, there it is, didn't sound like Pratt is going to be up anytime in the near future. He basically said, I hope I'm still here when he gets up. Oh, didn't you just sign a 3-year extension? I don't know. But it is a little bit of thing. I mean, Pratt is, I think on MLB sites, he's around a top 70-ish prospect or so. Per Fangraphs, he's not even ranked in the top 100 per Fangraphs. He's 10th in the organization there. So he was about a league average hitter last year at AA, 107 WRC plus in AA, only 238 average, hit for 8 homers and 31 steals in 120 games. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one develops, but I fear this one might have a little bit of a Eli White. Not Eli. Is it Eli White? Is he the first baseman for this?
Eli White. Eli White's the Braves outfielder.
Evan White. Evan White. There you go. Evan White.
That's the one.
From the Mariners that he got an extension to, and it just never really panned out for him. So, but again, it's the Brewers. So David, he's gonna haunt you.
I'd say Scott.
Aware.
Yeah.
I'm aware. I don't. This is not something I would do. Were I working in a front office, is start approaching AA players that were good prospects with extensions. It hasn't worked out with the Red Sox and Christian Campbell, especially before he debuts.
It's always that far away too. You just traded for Jet Williams. You have Joey Ortiz. You have Terang.
Yeah.
You already have these guys in your organization right there that are playing or up
And
closer.
Mate is there with
And Pena.
it's significant. I think Mate has significantly more potential at this point as a shortstop, but even if he moves over to second base and like Turang, I don't know, plays the corner outfielders. They have such a wealth of these middle infield prospects. I felt like Pratt felt more like a trade piece than an extension candidate to me. Not that I don't like it. He's 6'4". Like if they like the swing, they think they can get something out of it. Like I understand believing in a prospect, but man, I don't get this. But then again, right? We talked about I don't get any of these Brewers moves, and they're 3-0 or 4-0. Like of course they are, right? Like it's the Brewers, man. They never make any wrong steps. Now you have to sit back and be like, all right, well, why do they like Cooper Pratt this much? Because I haven't seen it. I think it was last year he was on my draft board for our dynasty league, and I was looking at him and I was like, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I think he's probably a good player. He's not like a star player. And I drafted Jesus Mate in that draft. Like I was fully on board with Brewer magic, but I don't know about Cooper Pratt, man. He wasn't my guy in their group.
Yeah, I'm with you, David. I think that Cooper Pratt seems like the type that could be like a really good utility guy in the big leagues, and maybe he's like you mentioned, he's 6'4". Maybe he develops a little bit more power. It's interesting. He's the 10th ranked prospect in the Brewers organization on Fangraphs to start the year. So this isn't like some kind of guy that's a top 50 universal prospect that. Right. I know he's higher on some other lists, but like it's not a unanimous.
America.
Yeah, he's not a unanimous like top 10, top 15 prospect that you would typically see get a deal like this. And I mean, I don't think they're buying out 2 years of free agency or something like.
Well, it's an 8-year
I guess
deal
it's
and
4
2 club
years.
options.
So if you got the 2 club options at the end of it, those are nice to have. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell without a player having debuted in the big leagues. I mean, we saw, we mentioned Evan White. We also saw, I don't know if y'all remember when Scott Kingery got an extension before he debuted, and he ended up being a total whiff.
Cubs legend Scott Kingery.
I didn't even know that.
He is currently on the roster.
Yeah.
On the major league roster?
On the major league roster.
I didn't even know that. I honestly, I thought he retired.
Oh, they got Dylan Carlson, Scott Kingery, and Michael Conforto.
It is.
Oh, I know they got Michael Conforto. We've discussed that.
I want Dylan Carlson to be starting and not Conforto. Conforto just struck out with 2 on.
Yeah, Michael Conforto got a ring last year, so we're not gonna complain about that. But that's right. So, but yeah, I mean, Cooper Pratt. That's a very interesting. I think this is earlier than I've seen a player get a deal like that. And I mean, you talk about him as it's not like I think Evan White was like a high end draft prospect too that was out of college, and Cooper Pratt was like a 6th round draft pick out of out of high school. So it's kind of one of those deals where you just kind of wonder, like, because that college production that Evan White had, we kind of felt like that's a little bit closer to like, okay, he's got a lot of potential here at the big leagues. Like we've seen him do it against high level competition before. Cooper Pratt has not done that, and he's never had a WRC plus in a full season. Like last year, a 107 at Double-A. Year before last was 123, which was really nice, but I mean it was at high A, so and single A, so it's not high level competition. But it's gonna be interesting to see how this works out. But one final thing on it is something that the Brewers typically are going to have to do, since they're not going to spend the high payroll, is take risks like this, because the only chance of them retaining players into free agency is to sign them really early to cheap deals. And this guy could end up being a star, and then they've got a Jose Ramirez type of deal from before he signed his extension,
or Ronald Acuna would be the,
or Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies type. Yeah.
We'll wrap it up real quick. I don't hate the Brewers doing it. I just don't know why they did it to this particular person.
Exactly.
I think they had much different options. Like if you took this deal and you did it with Jet Williams, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. He's probably going to debut or has debuted or whatever, or you went to Jesus Mate and we're like, who's a consensus top 10 prospect? And you were like, hey, we'll give you all this money up front. Okay. Just don't get it for Cooper Pratt right now. Now he's going to prove us wrong, and then we'll just have to eat it for the next 10 years, basically.
I'm dreading it.
All right, so let's get to some actual opening day reactions, and we'll kind of go a little bit quicker through this stuff. Let's start out with all the rookies, because man, did we have rookies show out so far this weekend. Chase DeLauter has been incredible. I think 3 homers.
Yeah.
Dark horse.
Did 4?
Yeah,
he's got 4. Yeah, he's hit another one yesterday.
He hit one. Was that the one yesterday where he hit it Oppo in Seattle?
Off of Munoz.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that's
an Oppo
crazy.
taco off Munoz in Seattle.
I know his first 3 homers were off of Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Andres Munoz.
That's insane, man.
You just don't do that.
And everybody's like, his swing is so ugly, and that was always the knock on DeLauter too. It was like
Doesn't
he's
matter.
got a little hitch in the swing where he's like drops his shoulder and kind of lifts the ball up. Dude, that is exactly why he hit the Munoz ball out. Was he dropped the hitch in and got his wrist shot out and got to the ball off the plate and shot it out of the park the other way. It's exactly why he hit the ball out.
Well, I will report back because Cleveland starts a 3-game series with LA tonight, and he gets to there's Roki, but then he gets to face Shohei and Yamamoto.
There's Roki.
Yeah, he gets to face Shohei and Yamamoto the next 2 nights after that, so we'll get to see there. But speaking of Japanese players, Munetaka Murakami, 3 homers in 3 games against the Brewers, so there's a fun one. Those contact concerns might be a little bit overblown. If only there was one person on this podcast that were kind of saying that for a while.
He did strike out 3 times amidst the home run yesterday.
Don't matter.
But the power is legit. And we did say the power is legit. And Damien was very adamant that the power would be legit. And you have to – I mean, we need to see more, but thus far I am thoroughly impressed with Murakami's transition over.
Yeah. Then Owen Caissie had looked great, then hit a walk-off homer. Was it grand slam?
No, it was
No,
the homer was a two-run homer to walk it off. Yeah.
Also, shout out Jack McMullen on that call. Was crazy. If you listen to the radio broadcast and followed the Just Baseball guys, that was awesome to see. I've watched those guys for a long time. He's amazing at that. He'll get a TV job at some point. Sal Stewart was also very great this weekend. He went up against Garrett Crochet. I think had 2 or 3 hits against Crochet of the Reds hits there. Hit a homer, looked great so far. JJ Wetherholt has lived up to every expectation we expected from him as well. And then Kevin McGonigle in San Diego looked incredible. And then Jackson Merrill just wanted to rip his heart out and steal his first career homer like he was Adam Jones or something. Like, Jackson, just let the guy get his first career homer, all right? Like, what are we doing here?
McGonigle looks like a dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like every plate appearance, he had a 10-pitch plate appearance, resulted in a two-run single. Like, it just came up. He's already looking like a bona fide 5-year vet, major leaguer. Yeah. He's going to be absolutely disgusting for Detroit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought this Kevin McGonigle is the guy that I was wanting to highlight from the weekend because all these guys are high-end prospects and they all showed out this weekend. But I think Kevin McGonigle is the type that's going to best sustain stuff like this all year. Like, I don't think he's – I mean, you mentioned he had a great weekend numbers-wise and he had a home run robbed. I mean, he could have had a better weekend numbers-wise if, Jackson Merrill didn't go crazy. So I really like that. Wetherholt was good to see. I'm a big believer in Wetherholt's talent. I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be amazing for the Cardinals. It's good to see Sal Stewart do well. DeLauter and Murakami, this is exactly what we expect Murakami to be. He's going to strike out a ton, and he's going to hit a lot of homers when he makes contact. It's going to be a matter of just how high is that strikeout rate going to be, because if it's going to be around 40%, that's really going to limit the amount of home runs he hits because he's just not making enough contact. If it's going to be 25%, then he might be a superstar bat. So I think that's kind of the question with him. And over the weekend, he hit home runs. But I think there's also going to be spells with him where he just goes cold for like months at a time and does nothing. So kind of Joey Gallo-esque, in my opinion.
I will say he does have a good walk. He
walked a ton.
He's at 4 walks to 5 strikeouts on the season.
Yeah, which is awesome. And like I say, if he can keep that up, then he's going to be phenomenal. I mean, he had what 31% strikeout this weekend, so
Mm.
that's not out of control for a guy who has like 70 grade power. But at the same time, his bat's got to be really good because his defense isn't good, and he can't. He's like best. Like if he is Joey Gallo-esque at the plate. I don't know. Joey Gallo's defense made him a valuable player for a while. That he was able to put up but his overall stat lines, except for maybe 1 year, weren't fantastic. He had a lot of homers, but the on base wasn't great, and the contact was so bad. But
I've got the stat line. I've got it.
Yeah,
I've got it. He's Miguel Sano. He's Miguel Sano.
he could be.
Miguel Sano, 2019, went 247, 346, 576 with 160 strikeouts and 439 plate appearances with a 923 OPS, 34 homers. That's what he's going to be. He's going to hit, I think he's going to hit 40 homers and strike out 225 times.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, but it's still going to be a good player at DH for the White Sox, especially, and they're, they need him to play him for 2 years. They just need him to be good enough to capture the hearts of some other front offices, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Mike Trout now, because
he's had a rough one. He's had a rough one tonight.
Hey, listen,
but the weekend was good.
The weekend was good.
Ed is not easy.
When he's on, he's not easy.
He dropped one in the outfield too. It's been a rough one.
I just need him to stay healthy. Stay healthy. But he does look good in center field. He stole his first base.
It's first base in March since 2019
or something like that. Yeah. It was crazy. You could tell he's feeling really good. I was watching a thing with him. Or someone else wrote an article on him about mid-season last year. He found this health regiment thing and this new system for his health. He's he feels a lot better so far this year. Listen, I don't care. Give Mike Trout the steroids at this point. Let him do whatever he wants to do. Baseball is better when Mike Trout is very good. So you might be saying hey, it's 4 games. Why are you guys talking about him? Because we need a good Mike Trout.
Mike Trout.
We need a good Mike Trout back. So I just hope this continues, and I hope he stays healthy, playing every day in center field. But he looks comfortable, and he looks great so far.
I will say that he dropped the one tonight, but he did it out of an abundance of caution for his health. He might have collided with the second baseman on the pop-up, kind of pulled off and ended up dropping the ball. But I would much rather Mike Trout stay healthy and not collide with second baseman trying to catch a ball in Game 4.
Yeah. I'm on board with Mike Trout. I want him to have a great year. The one thing other than health that concerns you going into this year is that he started swinging and missing a lot more, especially at breaking balls. And you just kind of hope that he's able to make some adjustments to get right with that. Now, part of that could also be just the injuries and not having consistent plate appearances over the last few years. But he's also, getting up there in age. I mean, he's, it's hard to believe he's only 34 because it feels like the way we've talked about him the last few years, he's 40. But, he could still have a few more good years in there if he's healthy. And it's been a promising start for him. We'll see if he's able to continue to cut down on those strikeouts and play the type of game that we see. One last thing about him too is this whole trying to preserve his health the last couple of years, and just we saw this with Byron Buxton too. It doesn't work when you just start trying to limit a player. Just let him go play baseball and he'll play a lot better. If you can get 90, 100 games of really good baseball out of him as opposed to 130 games of mediocre baseball out of him, then you take that. I mean, it's just trying to play games with him and making him think about all this stuff all year isn't the best thing to do. So and we saw how great Buxton was last year, and I think Mike Trout could be a situation where he has a big bounce back year on a rate basis, even if he does have some games he has to miss at some point because of just being allowed to go play baseball, play center field, do all the things that has always made him great. I think that's really important for him.
Yeah, and I'm going to skip over our next point because I think what I want to talk about Mike Trout, it jumps right into what our next topic after that. The ABS system for Mike Trout might be the best thing for him to help with that strikeout rate. He is one of the best at commanding the zones already. He's asked for 4 challenges already this year, and he's won 3 of them. That might help his strikeout rate drop a few percentage points just right there in bad calls. basically. I say bad calls, but those very close ones where he just knows the strike zone so much better, where he never had a chance to do that before. So we'll skip over Shea Langeliers for now. He might come back at some point, but he's looking great.
We'll talk about him in player of the game player of the day.
There you go. But let's talk about ABS so far, because Matt and I kind of went through. We have some interesting stats so far through ABS. Let's read these off. We'll get initial stuff, and then I know, David, you had another point you wanted to hit on. So far through Baseball Savant, there's been 175 challenges. There's about a 54% success rate on those. From catchers, there's been 92 attempts. 64% is correct. From hitters, there's been 78 attempts. That is 42%. Now, all of these numbers are before Monday, I believe. Or they might include the Kansas City, Minnesota game. Either way.
I don't think they do. It said through the weekend.
And then from pitchers, there's only been 5 attempts. 2 of those have been correct. And then per Codify on X, ABS challenge overturn rates, which I thought was an interesting stat, through the 35 games, 69% of calls have been overturned against the 10 oldest umpires in the game, while only 39% have been overturned against the 10 youngest umpires in the game. So I think there's a double-edged sword with that. Obviously, we see the older umpires who have had more of the reputation strike zones through the game, but you're also seeing younger umpires who have potentially worked with this system in the minor leagues before, or just typically as you were younger, you have better eyes and you aren't getting fooled as much about other things. I do think those are some overall very interesting stats. So, David, I know you have an extra point to throw onto this, but what are your overall thoughts so far what the ABS system has been through one weekend?
I love it. I can't wait until we have I don't mind having the umpire there, but like give him something in his ear that just reads what the call should be. Like with this system, it's very clear that it works. It works well. It gives what I really like about it is it gives the players a chance to get it right when they believe they have something. I like that aspect of it so much because it vindicates a player, or it vindicates the umpire. If the play, the umpire called it right, gets challenged and it's wrong, it vindicates the umpire and it gives you that clarity of, yes, that was a ball. I know it was a ball now. I like that so much for the game right now. And I got a message from my brother about it. He sent me a TikTok. He doesn't watch baseball. He's not a baseball guy. Never has been. Messaged me about it. Got a TikTok about the ABS system. I think it was the CB Buckner one where Suarez challenged the same pitch twice in a row. That was a ball low. He called it a strike twice, and Suarez didn't get rung up because he was able to challenge it. And my brother said, this is the best thing baseball's ever done. He loves it, because it gets that spot right where it doesn't become about the umpire, and it can't become about the umpire because it's about the strike zone. And it's about the game. And all it is the player saying, hey, give me a chance to get this call right. And if it's not right, that's part of the risk of challenging the play and understanding when. We're going to get plenty of wrong calls with this system, but it's so refreshing to get some of those calls, the at-bat changing calls right, that or even to confirm that they were called correctly by the umpire, that I am just firmly in love with this system. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm on board with that too. I think the system's been awesome. You mentioned your brother sending you stuff about it. I've seen a lot of people from outside of baseball, like other sports media, talking about it too, and how great it is, and hoping that their sports do similar stuff with different issues that they have with refereeing or umpiring and other places. So I think it's been a huge success. I'm very interested to see how it grows this year. This first weekend, we had a lot of obviously 54% of challenges were successful. I think that number's only going to go up, because I think that I think teams are going to be a little bit more limited on how much that they challenge on calls, especially early in games. I know that I think it might have been on opening day that the Braves used both of their challenges in the first inning, or used all their challenges in the first inning. They had none left the rest of the game. It might have been on Saturday, but it was one of the two games. And it's like, I think what's going to end up happening is for the first 7 innings of the game, egregious calls are going to get overturned. Like, especially when because the catcher knows the strike zone. So he knows where the pitch is at. Now, if it's 0.2 inches off the plate and they call it a ball, the catcher's not going to challenge, I mean, if it's close. So, because nobody can tell the difference between a tenth of an inch live like that. But I think that as we grow with this, you're going to see a lot of calls late in games more challenged than calls early in games, unless it's something like bases loaded, 2 outs, full count. It's close. You might take that chance at that point, but I think it's been successful. I don't think pitchers are going to keep challenging because obviously the catcher would know better than the pitcher who's far away and doesn't have a good angle on exactly where the ball's crossing the plate. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see. The one thing that I am going to despise about this rule, and it's really the only negative to me about it. I think everything else about it is awesome. The thing I'm going to despise is that when they call a strike 3 to end a game, and the batter taps his helmet and it gets, as the other team is celebrating, and then it gets overturned and you have to deal with that whole thing. I'm going to despise that. So, and just the fact that anytime you have a called strikeout, especially if you're at the game and stuff, you're kind of not even that excited because you're like, wait a minute, this might be changing. So better be careful. But I think the rule is great. It definitely adds a lot of legitimacy to the game. Something that the dynamic we've never had before, and it adds a cool strategy dynamic too. So I think it's been great. I'm excited to see how it goes the rest of this year.
Well, and to your point, real quick, Jeff Passan put out an article today, and it kind of went down a bunch of other stuff. So it broke down by innings. What's the favorite innings to challenge at the moment? The 6th is the most challenged inning right now at 26. Then the 7th at 25, the 9th at 24, and the 8th at 20. So you're seeing from the back half, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th are obviously where most of the challenges are. Obviously, the 9th inning only has, some of those only have the top half of the 9th.
Yeah. So
that's probably going to be the most challenged inning. But to your point, like you were mentioning, it's going to be the back half of the game is where those primarily are going to be used. The one thing I wish that they would actually change or clarify is the amount of time or like movement that they have to deal with for the catcher or the player to like challenge the call or whatever. I was watching the Braves game. I think it was on Saturday. And Matt Olson was like standing up at the plate. He got struck out and like, he like put his head down because that's what his natural thing is. Like when a thing comes through, he thought it was a ball. He put his head down. The catcher or the ump said strike. He looked back at the ump and immediately tapped his helmet. And the ump's like, no, your first movement was head down. And he's like,
yeah,
but it was like within the 2 seconds that, they're supposed to be given 2 seconds or whatever. And it's like, that was fast enough to be able to do it. But then there was a challenge where Josh Bell almost got to first base the other day and the catcher like challenged it. And they gave that challenge to, I think it was the Orioles. Like they got that one. And it's like, well, it's very umpires like discretion on if you've challenged quick enough or what your first movement is or something. Like a lot of your first movement, if you think it's a bad call, is to look at the umpire and be like, what? Or like, what'd you say? Like, did you call that a ball? Like, but if you don't do that immediately, like they're going to be like, oh, you didn't challenge it immediately.
Right.
They wish they find some way to clarify or at least change that to where it makes maybe a little bit more sense.
Maybe we'll make it where it's like within 5 seconds of the strikeout.
Yeah, I mean, I get they don't want them looking to their dugout.
Yeah,
right.
That's the big thing.
But like, you could first off, it's not going to load that fast either way.
Right.
Even if they have stuff in the dugout, it's not going to load that fast. But like, give them like a second to like what like process what you even said.
I think the movement thing that does not need to be part of this, right? We don't need to add balls and strikes while we're trying to take away having balls and strikes and these umpire rulings. Like, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah, I definitely think that the 2 seconds is a good amount of time. It just needs to be more consistently done, and just we did have the same type of stuff with the pitch clock when it first started, where you had a little bit of the enforcement. It was kind of weird. It's new to everybody. It's new to the umpires. It's new to the players. Yeah. There's gonna be some weird things that happen with it, and there's gonna be adjustments that need to be made. So I don't think that that's gonna end up being a problem for very long. I think everyone will get used to it.
Yeah, right. I think so too. All right, let's jump to the few injuries that we've had happen so far. So before opening day, Jackson Chourio had found out he had a fractured left hand. He's going to be out about 2 to 4 weeks. And then the Brewers are just adding on with Andrew Vaughn, who broke his hamate bone. He'll be out about 4 to 6 weeks. None of this matters because they're still going to win the Central, apparently. The magic is still there.
The magic will never go away.
By the way, Brewers are now the favorite based on the Fangraphs playoff odds to win the Central after 3 games.
Well, I mean, that changes,
It does. It does, but it's just interesting to me that it's like the Brewers are already Brewers are already the favorite again.
Yeah.
Right. We had our time where it was like, I don't know what the Brewers are doing. And then the baseball starts, Brewers are amazing again, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they played the White Sox. Come on, maybe that's fine.
Yeah, well, the Cubs played the Nationals, so.
Oh, but so did the Phillies.
All right.
Well, the Phillies might just be trash too because they are 1-2. So.
Well,
either way.
We'll see.
And then one other one that just happened a little bit ago, and that is Cody Ponce. He left today's game. He had to end up getting carted off the field. Not clear. It looks like either ACL, knee injury, or something that looked like a hyperextension, but you just never know if it could be Achilles or ACL or something at that point. Obviously, when you have to get carted off, that's never a good sign. And Ponce had just signed a decent deal with the Blue Jays coming back from overseas this year. And in his first start, just has this happen to him. So that's absolutely kind of gut-wrenching for him.
They also had Bieber down to the Blue Jays too, so there's a little bit of a lack of pitching depth there right now. I wonder if they make a deal.
And Scherzer too, right? Is Scherzer?
Yeah, I think Scherzer's down too.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Maybe Lucas Giolito, who still isn't signed for some reason, goes there.
Would make sense.
Should definitely be signed by now. So, anyways, that's the few little injury notes we've had happen so far. David, why don't you take over for Player of the Day poll?
Player of the Day. We still are running the polls. Opening days was a little bit funky because I had extra text in there and it went over, so I had to do a second tweet because it really hates when there's too many characters in the poll. I don't know why. To take it up with Elon, I don't know. The opening day, we had a runoff between McGonigle and Mike Trout. Mike Trout ended up pulling through. The Angels fans came through with a big vote for Mike. Shea Langeliers won March 27th, though he hit 3 home runs this weekend. He was awesome. Michael McGreevy got another runoff yesterday, and then Emerson Hancock won the poll from yesterday into today. So first 4 games, I didn't do one for that Giants-Yankees day, so we'll just roll with these last 4. I don't know if you guys still want to do Player of the Week, but I mean, it's gonna be Mike Trout.
I don't
give
know.
it to him.
I mean, we can.
It's Mike Trout.
It's Mike Trout.
Let's do
but I do want to shout out McGreevy and Hancock both having 6 no-hit innings.
So Lance Brozdowski put out a video of he got a bunch of people to suggest a hot take for the season.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a great video. Please go watch it. Lance is awesome. It's on YouTube. But one of the hot takes, I don't remember who said it. It might have been one of the Cespedes bros, but it was that a combined perfect game will happen this year, and I think that is a great take. I think that is absolutely going to happen. It is because of the way this stuff is going to go, man. We're going to get a pitcher that goes 6 innings, but he has 100 pitches, or maybe 80 pitches, but he's on a pitch count, and then the relievers will come in and just dominate, and nobody walked, and that was it.
Didn't we almost have one last year? Didn't we have a pitcher one that went maybe 7 through 7 or 8? I think I remember watching the game. It might have been a year before last.
I know there was one recently. I think it got through 7.
Yeah, I think the starter got pulled after 6 because it was one of those that David mentioned. It was somebody who had recently come back from injury and was on a strict pitch count because of that. But I will say the one thing about the combined perfect game that I think is going to make it tough is just that anytime you start running 2 or 3 different pitchers out, one of them is going to take a couple of batters to get his command, and it's going to make it really difficult to avoid walks, running different guys out of the bullpen. And I don't think that even with a strict pitch count, if you go 8 innings and have a perfect game, I don't think any manager is pulling their pitcher at that point. It's that is not doable.
Do not give Dave Roberts that challenge, buddy.
He'll find a way to yank him.
He will do it.
Well, I get it, but I don't even know if Dave Roberts would pull a pitcher who had a perfect game through 8 innings just because he had 100 pitches. That is a once in a generation.
It's been since Felix, hasn't it, for the last perfect game?
No, it was.
No. We had one. We had Herman.
Herman, yeah. Everyone's favorite player. But yeah, that's an interesting take. I hadn't heard that one. So
It's a great video. Go watch it for sure.
It's a great
Me
video.
too.
So, well, that will wrap up this week's episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning into this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you guys think down below. Let us know what you think. We're doing the midweek videos again. We are going to record another one right after this to go up on Wednesday. So be sure to tune into that. But again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on this video, and we'll catch you guys back next week.